Hey guys, how's it going? Saki here. I am currently a student pilot and I'm working towards my CPL. And today I want to share with you guys how I study, along with some tips and tricks that have really helped me, and hopefully they can help you too. So I've just done my first CASA exam, which was general knowledge. There's a lot to cover in this one, and I chose it first because I was feeling reasonably confident about it. It was between that or aerodynamics. So without beating around the bush, I passed. Yay! I will show you my results. 73%. Could have done better, could have done worse, but overall I'm happy that I passed and it's sort of out of the way for now. I'll walk you through some of the strategies that I used to study, which might be useful if you're working towards a commercial pilot license as well. So I'm actually doing an integrated university course, which includes all of the 7 CASA CPL subjects. So over 12 weeks in my first semester, I worked through the general knowledge aviation theory center textbook, trying to properly understand the content and not just memorize things. There's a lot to get your head around, how magnetos work, for example, how turbochargers work and how they affect manifold pressure, how air density affects a turbocharger performance, how flight instruments work based on its principles like rigidity, precession. It's all fascinating stuff, really, and what makes this subject hard is the sheer volume of content. The content itself is not especially difficult, it's just that there's a lot, and I compare it a lot to learning a new language, which I'll get into. So I read through all the chapters of the book. I did the review questions at the back of each chapter, which helps lock in what I've learnt, reinforce what I've learned. Reinforcement is key, and the more time I spend understanding the material, the more I understood that concept and how similar it is of a process to learning a new language. Combined with flight training, that helps too, because applying the knowledge in the real world also reinforces what you've learned. It's spaced repetition, and the more time you spend with the material, the more fluent you become. You're building up fluency. In the days leading up to the exam, I studied relentlessly, using the textbook as well as pilot practice exams. And I got to be honest, if it weren't for pilot practice exams, I would not have passed AGK. And I'm going to tell you why. I was getting about 85 to 90% on the practice exams, but that's not enough. I just got away with a pass for this exam. The pass mark is 70% and I got 73. If I got 2 more questions wrong, I would have failed. The most important thing is you need to understand the content. Don't just memorize the answers. There are a variety of different CASA questions. They're written in a similar way to the pilot practice exams, but you can't rely on rote learning. Simply memorizing the answer isn't going to cut it. You need to understand why that answer is correct. And I'll show you a few examples. So I'll just show you my pilot practice exam account here. I'm not going to show you any paid stuff because they don't want me sharing the content that I pay for. So I'll just show you something that's free that everyone can access. CSYA, that's the subject I was doing. And you have access, when you have a paid subscription, you have access to all these final preparation tests and such. I'll just click on the free one and show you an example question. And then you get a variety of different questions and you can test your knowledge. So question 1 here says, a supercharger does what to the air prior to it entering the cylinders? So I know the answer to this one. It compresses, check, and it's correct. Now, don't just memorize the answer. Make sure you understand this concept. Make sure you understand how a supercharger works. What's the whole point of it? It compresses the air so it can deliver more power to the engine, basically. And it's very helpful in higher altitudes where the air is less dense, and you basically need a supercharger to compress the air so it can deliver the same amount of performance as it would at sea level. I'm also going to show you the book. So I've got Aircraft General Knowledge purchased. Again, I'm not going to show you the paid content, but I can get away with showing you one or two questions. So each chapter in the book has a section at the end where you can review the questions. So we'll use chapter 1 for example. After I read through the chapter, I have some review questions, and here are some questions here. Number 15, why is the pitot head and static vent covered after flight? So with all these, I have my notes. I prepare a Word document and I answer all the questions in the chapter. And the answers here, it's to prevent dirt or insects from getting into the pitot tube. And if there are any questions that I don't particularly know the answer to or don't know how to explain well, I highlight it in red and I mark it as a knowledge deficiency. So that's just for me in the future to keep in mind, just in case I need to know that knowledge. And as you can see, I've highlighted heaps of stuff. Anything I got wrong, I highlight it in red. And I also have a notes section at the end of each of the whole thing. These are all the notes to myself that I need to revise. As you can see, I've written quite a lot. So this is all my own knowledge deficiencies, all the stuff that I need to read up on and brush up on and such. A lot of useful notes here, and even more knowledge deficiencies. So it's important to keep track of your knowledge deficiencies, then go back to doing pilot practice exams, alternate between your notes and doing the pilot practice exams, the pilot practice questions. That way, whatever you don't know, you're building up, you're adding to your base of knowledge. You're building up fluency, as I said before, and you're helping to reinforce the knowledge that you need. With that said, I can give you a few good examples of what's important to remember. So turbocharger knowledge is pretty important. Make sure you fully understand their function and their relationship with manifold pressure. Make sure you understand how magnetos work. Example, switching them off, what does it do? It grounds the primary circuit. If your engine is running rough, it could be due to the magneto timing being out. And make sure you know the whole purpose of the magneto timing and why the spark from the spark plug needs to be delayed during startup. Make sure you know how your flight instruments work. Remember some of the useful mnemonics. For example, there's ONUS, which stands for overshoot north, undershoot south, and SAND, which is south accelerate, north decelerate. These are useful mnemonics. There are a lot of great videos out there that explain what these acronyms mean. These ones are about compass errors, and you need to know about compass errors and all sorts of instrument errors as well. Also, really make sure that you know the acronym PUDSUC. PUDSUC. Pitot underreed descent, static underreed climb. So it's important, very important to know how a blockage of the static port or the pitot tube affects your airspeed indicator. Make sure you know the difference between series and parallel circuits, the basic workings of a voltmeter and ammeter and what they indicate. Very important to know. So now I'm going to go into my knowledge deficiencies. Wastegates. I've got too wrong in wastegate operations. I think I didn't understand the relationships well enough between what the wastegate does and how it affects manifold pressure at different altitudes. But I have a better knowledge of it now. Voltmeter. Make sure you know how much voltage is meant to be supplied to the aircraft and all its systems. Ammeter is another knowledge deficiency. To be honest, I don't know what I got wrong there. I was feeling pretty confident about my knowledge with ammeters. Fire warning detectors. Okay, I'll admit this was one of my weak areas. I didn't really know much about fire detection systems or how they're triggered or the components they're made of. So it helps a little bit to understand how they work. But to be honest, I only got one question about fire detection systems, but every little bit helps. Fuel tank vents. Another one I got tripped up on. I don't know exactly what I did wrong, but make sure you know the effects of a blocked fuel vent, for example, because it needs to be vented to the atmosphere. Constant speed propeller. I think I misunderstood the role of the counterweights. Should there be a hydraulic failure or governor failure? And constant speed propellers, it's a pretty big topic. So you need to have a good, thorough understanding of propeller theory. Make sure you know the difference between coarse pitch and fine pitch, and even the aerodynamic and centrifugal twisting moments that can apply. So there's a little bit of combined aerodynamic knowledge as well. Battery usage, I honestly don't know what I got wrong there either. Fuel flow gauge, again, I don't know. Detonation, yes, detonation is an important one because you need to know what can cause detonation in the engine and how to manage it if it does occur. For example, what do you do with the power and mixture settings? Yeah, that's it. Those are all my knowledge deficiencies. I could have definitely done better, but I've really enjoyed learning AGK, and I'm glad it's out of the way for now. I will need to address all of those knowledge deficiencies on paper. I need to write a paragraph about each of them. So for people who are wondering, I got 73% in the exam. That does not mean that there are pilots out there flying with only 70% knowledge. I still have to show that I understand where I went wrong, because CASA wants us to have 100% knowledge, basically. There are many more things to learn, and the learning is never going to stop. When you sign up for an aviation career, you're actually signing up for a lifetime of learning. So with that all said, I wish all of you guys the best. Hopefully you find this insightful and helpful. And next time, with more videos, I'm going to keep uploading, and I'm going to try and make a video for each CPL subject. Cheers, guys.